Hello and welcome to Hexed Encountered. My name is Joe. Today we are continuing our series on 65 squad level combat in the jungles of Vietnam from Flying Pig Games, designed by Mark H. Walker. In previous videos in this series, we've looked at the components. We've also looked at the base two-player game, what comes in the main game box, and then also we looked at the solitaire module. And today we're going to look at the other add-ons for the game. So that would be the U.S. Marine Corps ANZAC expansion and the city expansion. But we're also going to take a look at vehicles and helicopters, just to kind of give a complete, well-rounded look at everything that this game has to offer. And so in this episode, we have the Australian forces. They are assaulting a Viet Cong-held village. Now, this add-on adds a few things. So obviously it adds the Marine Corps and the Australians and New Zealanders, but it also adds some new abilities, some new powers, and it also adds civilians. So they have civilian counters here. And the civilian counter is used basically to represent, obviously, the non-combatants, but there's a penalty in victory points applied if a non-combatant is hit. So and they can be hit anytime either side's fire passes through or ends in a hex that they are located in. Now, we also have some vehicles in here. So we have the Centurion tank. And vehicles have the ability not only to, obviously, there are armored fighting vehicles like the tank here, the Centurion. There are also trucks and armored personnel carriers and so on. Any vehicle that has its movement circled can carry passengers. So the tank can actually carry some passengers as well because it has a circle. The 4 indicates its movement points, and the T indicates that it's a tracked vehicle. They also have facing because it has a gun, and you want to face this corner with the armored attack value points to a vertex of the hex that you are located in, and that determines your facing, so that you can determine what the front armor and rear armor or side armor of the vehicle is when it takes fire, as well as its firing arc. So in this case, I am putting this Centurion in this orientation because it's heading this way, and I want its firing arc to be towards the enemy forces that are located here at the bottom of the map. So we have an M113 here as well, same facing. It's carrying a hero and a rifle squad. Then we have 2 Centurions that are actually carrying as well a hero and a rifle squad. And then the rest of the forces, we have a couple of M60s, a couple more rifle squads, 2 rifle squads here, and another rifle squad, and M60 here. So they're dismounted. They're not on any vehicles. So there's a lot of firepower here from the Aussies. And then on the bottom of the map, we have the Viet Cong. They have some foxholes and some bunkers. Okay, they have machine guns. They have a couple of RPGs. I believe 2. Yes, 2. RPGs cannot be put into bunkers. So both RPGs are actually in buildings. And the RPDs, the machine guns, they're located in bunkers and foxholes and so forth. So this is obviously an assault mission. This is scenario 1 of the add-on, and it's going to be it's called Bin Ba. It's from June of 1969. It's the 5th Royal Australian Regiment assaulting the village of Bin Ba, which is held by the Viet Cong. There are civilians within the village, obviously, and both sides will take penalties in terms of victory points should any of those civilians be hit by fire from either side. So I'm going to begin here by determining initiative. So I already drew the cards for both sides. So this is the Australians cards, and we have their highest value is a 3, and we're going to play that because they do want initiative. So we'll make that our card for the Australians. Now the VC initiative's not as much of a big deal for them because if you look at the map currently, they don't really have great lines of fire to any of the Australian units. Now this unit here can fire up this path at this tank, but again, they're on the defensive. They're holding this village. Do they want to actually be the aggressor in this particular mission? My opinion is no. So if we look at their cards, they have a move and fire. Now again, they're on the defense, so moving's not necessarily going to be a priority for them. Obviously, fire and rally are worthwhile. We have a bloodlust and a move, a fire and a fast move, and a fast move and a rally. Okay, so I believe actually that the best card for them to play would be this one, which has a 1 on it, and it's because it's the move and fire. Now we have a bloodlust, which is essentially a rally. We have a fire card here and a fast move. Again, they're not really looking to move much, and then another rally over here. So these cards I think are more useful than this card in general, although the rally is on here. So they'll play the 1. They're going to end up keeping it anyway because the Australian 3 will beat the 1. So the Australians will go first. They have initiative. Okay, so now we look at their cards here. So we have a move and fire. We have a fire, a panic, and a retreat. So I think what they would probably want to do is do a move and fire. And what I'm going to do with that is you can move half of your movement factor and then fire. Okay, and you get again, soft target only hits are yellow and red. Okay, so I have this Centurion here with a movement factor of 4. There's a road that would allow them to move 2. However, we have the kunai here, and when you have multiple hexes of kunai, it degrades line of sight. So I believe the better move would be to move this stack here. The problem is we have these guys on top of the tank. They are riding the tank essentially. So again, we can move 2. That would allow them to fire, but these guys are still going to be mounted. So a better one would be the move card, in my opinion. So we're going to play the move card, which will allow us to move, and then we can fire on a further turn essentially. So I am actually going to move this tank 2, which is half its movement, like so, and then I'm going to dismount my units here. So I'm going to turn these guys around. And what the rules suggest is to put dismounted units that are in the same hex as a vehicle underneath the vehicle. And if they're mounted, you put them on top. So we're going to put Sparks and our rifle squad beneath our Centurion. And the Centurion's facing is still going to be this way. So it's still got its toughest armor, its front armor facing this, essentially facing the bunker. The bunker's fire will be this way. So that will end the Australians' impulse. We go to the VC. Now the VC can use a fire. One of their fires here. So they'll use their only fire card actually. So they're going to fire at this tank. And they can't use the RPG because it's too far away. The RPG's max range is 3 hexes. They have an RPD and a hero here inside this bunker that they can fire at this hex. Now, the RPD, which is a machine gun, has a suppress ability, which means they can hit all 3 units. Okay, they attack the hex essentially and not a specific unit as opposed to firing at a unit. So they're going to do that. Okay, the range is 2, and with a machine gun at 2, you get a +1. So we will use we will fire with this unit with the RPD, and the hero we can add his 1 in as well. That gives them a 3, plus the bonus would be a 4. They're in open terrain, so they don't get any defensive terrain benefit. So again, in combat, we draw cards. So we draw 4 cards. We will be hits on green, right? So we flip green hit, green hit, green hit, and a yellow, which is a miss. Okay, so none of these are end turn. Because neither Fawn nor the RPD have an armored assault value, armored attack value rather, they can't actually hit the tank. I mean, they're firing, automatic weapons, bullets. They're going to bounce off the armor. So Sparks and the rifle squad will take hits. So the rifle squad will be reduced and shaken because of taking 2 hits, whereas Sparks will be shaken. So we get 2 shakens out, drop them on here, and our tank is still okay. So, and now we move back to the Aussies. They have 2 cards, so we will draw 2 for them. Okay, so the Aussies are going to play from their Command Ops card. They're going to play the Command Ops card, which gives them 2 extra actions. Those 2 actions will be a fire action, and then I'm going to use a move and fire action as well. Or maybe I'll use a second wind. Actually, this gets moved. Okay, so I'm going to fire with my tank here. Now, well, we're going to attack the bunker itself, not the units in the bunker itself. So the way we calculate the targeting number is we have 2 hexes, 1, 2. You don't count the firing hex, so just 2 plus a bunker has a value of 4. So that becomes 6, and then we get 1 more for it being in jungle. So that makes it 7. So that's our 2 hit number. So the first thing we do is we pull up a card and we look at the number here, and that will tell us if it's a hit. Okay, so since it's a -1, it's actually a miss, so they didn't even hit it, which is bad. From the Australian standpoint, that's bad. So that fire is then, since we didn't hit it, it's just a miss, and we're going to put we'll put the moved marker on these guys, and we're going to put the ops complete marker on the tank. All right, so that was not good. So now we will use our move and fire, and we're going to do a move of 2 by this tank. So we're going to go 1, 2, since it has a movement factor of 4. And now it will also employ an attack against the bunker. So the units it's carrying are not part of this. They're not firing. This is an armor-piercing attack against a hard target, the bunker. Works the same way. We get 2 is the range, so the number is the same. It's 7 again. We draw a card. We got a -3. It's another miss. So I'm going to drop ops complete on here, and that ends the Australian impulse. Back to the VC. They actually get to draw 2 cards because they use 2 cards. So we get a command ops. So I think I'm going to play the command ops. That'll let me play 2 cards, 2 actions. So we're going to drop that. We're going to play a fire action. Yeah, we're going to play a fire action with our sniper over here. And I'm also going to play the rally. Or actually I'm going to play a fire with the power. I'm going to play power for our sniper. And I'm going to play bloodlust. Okay, so the bloodlust will remove the shaken from our rifle unit. They remain fired, but they're not ops complete. So they actually would have an opportunity to move if they needed to, which they probably won't, but why not? We'll take a shot at it. Okay, so that's the bloodlust card played. Now we're going to use the power here, and this will end up being an ops complete for our sniper here. So she has a fire factor of 1, gets an additional 1 for the targeting. She's going to pick which unit she wants to hit. She's going to go for the rifle unit since it's already reduced. And so we draw 2 cards. And greens would be hits. So we get a hit, and we don't even need to look at the second one because 1 hit is enough to eliminate that unit. So this unit is now removed. So first casualty of the scenario here. And we continue on back to the Australians. They draw 1 card. Yeah, I'm going to play reinforcements and draw another card. And we drew an end turn card, so that's 2. We'll draw another card. Another end turn card. So that's 3. And we draw a scrape and a rally. So we're going to use rally. We'll use rally on our hero Sparks here. So he will remain moved, but now he is no longer shaken, and I will be able to fire with him. Okay, so the VC only have 1 card left, so they get to draw 3. We're getting close to the bottom, so that 4th end turn is going to be coming up. All right, so we got the end turn. So that's going to end the turn. So that ends this turn. I'm actually going to stop here. I wanted to show kind of how some of these things worked. Now, if I were to fire an attack with Sparks, and I'll show you that just so you can see what happens here. So Sparks has the ability that's called fire. So for Sparks has a range of 1 hex and has no range modifiers, right? So if Sparks were here, and I'm just going to demonstrate this for demonstration purposes because this is a special ability that only exists in this add-on, this fire ability. So if he's adjacent to a unit, he can fire, and his fire is going to actually set this hex on fire as well, or has a chance to at least, okay? So when you draw, so he's got a fire factor of 4 because flamethrower obviously is a nasty weapon. So we're going to draw 4 cards just for demonstration purposes. Okay, so we get a miss. We get a green hit, so that would be a hit. We get another miss, and we get a yellow hit. Okay, so this is what I was looking for, is this yellow hit. So on a yellow hit with Sparks, that sets the hex on fire. So you get a hex, or rather a fire marker. Yeah. So you take this fire marker and you'd put it on the hex. And then obviously, since that RPG got hit, it would take a shaken marker as well. Now, at the end of the turn, when you go into the reserve phase, after you discard all the cards and everything, each unit with a burning in it is so if he could have moved his unit out, he would move him out because he would then be susceptible to this. You draw 2 cards, you flip them. It's a green. In this case, it's a green, so he would take an additional hit. And if there are hexes at the start of the turn burning, such as this one, then you do another flip. And if you look and you get a green hit, the fire goes out and you take it out. If you get a yellow, so if we had gotten this yellow here, the fire would spread to 1 randomly selected hex. So one of these that surround it. Maybe we would roll a die or something to determine that. So that is how the ANZAC, U.S. Marine Corps, and ANZAC rather, some of the special rules that you'll see in there and how armored combat works. I wish we had gotten some hits, but we did not. If you do hit an armored unit, you get a wreck or a vehicle, you flip it and there's a wreck side, and then the wreck would just stay in its hex as a wreck. So that in a nutshell is how the vehicles and the U.S. Marine Corps ANZAC expansion works. So I'm going to be back in a moment with a new board set up for the city and maybe some helicopters and stuff, just to kind of give you an idea of how that piece of it works. So that'll be back in just a moment. Okay, we're back. As you can see, I've got the city map set up. So this is the city map scenario, which is described as being the Battle of Quang Tri, which took place in 1968. And we have the VC forces over here along the river. They are not allowed to cross the bridges, but they are here on the east bank of the river. The American forces are over here on the other side of the board. This is a 9-turn scenario that ends when the 4th end turn card is drawn. So there are some special scenario rules here that I can read to you, or you can just read them here on the sheet along with me. The Viet Cong cannot enter a bridge hex. At the beginning of the reserve phase, before either side moves its units, roll 1d6 twice for every hex containing VC units within 3 hexes of the river that has a line of sight to any hex on the west bank. The result is the HEF attack on said hex. Oh, -2. I'm sorry. 1d6 -2. I've read that wrong. I'm sorry. The attack is modified normally by cover factors and difficult target abilities. If more than one target in hex, distribute the hits evenly. This represents the ARVN forces on the east side of the river taking the VC under fire. The U.S. may call a 3 HEF artillery strike as per the artillery card by playing a firepower card and either a critical hit or glancing shot. The U.S. player has a 5-card hand for the scenario. All other elements of Rule 6A apply. That's in the regular rule book, except that the U.S. player fills their hand to Rule 5 cards each impulse. Obviously, if the U.S. player wins the initiative, they will have only 4 cards for that impulse. The transport UEs depart after unloading their troops. So there will be 3 UEs that will arrive in turn 5. They will drop off some reinforcements. Any transport UE remaining on the board at the end of turn 5 is removed from play, even if loaded. Each side controls any hex in which it could set up. Mark controlled hexes with a different coin type for each player. Remove the now the shoe is on the upper hand bonus victory condition before either side draws its bonus victory condition. So with all that in mind, the first thing I'm going to do is draw that bonus victory condition for both sides. So I removed the now the shoe is on the upper hand card. So here are our cards. I'm just going to pull a couple out. I'll pull this one for the VC and I'll pull this one for the US. So the VC get battalion wants prisoners, so they have to kill at least 1 enemy squad in assault combat. So that is the VC bonus victory condition. And the US has cut off the head and the scales will curl or something like that. Eliminate 1 enemy hero. So that's the US. Okay, we will draw 4 cards for the VC and 5 cards for the US. We'll put our draw deck rather, here at the bottom. So looking at the US, well, they have a 10. So they're going to play the 10. And we'll see what the VC has. The VC has a -5, an 8, and a 10 of their own. Well, now, we're going to play the 10 for them as well. So now we have to determine how to break this tie, which I haven't shown before. Okay, so in the event of a tie, we look to the second box here, the armor-piercing box. And whichever one has the higher number gets initiative. So in that case, the VC, which has a 1, while the US has a -1, the VC win initiative. So this card is now discarded. I am going to play out the first few turns of this to get to the helicopter section so that you can see how helicopter play works. So I'm going to play this off camera. I may turn it on after each turn to kind of show you the situation, and then I'll just continue on playing throughout the rest of the game till we get to turn 5. This is a 9-turn scenario with 4 end turn cards being needed to end the turn. So for now, I'm going to stop shooting. This is a snapshot at the start of the game. We know the VC have initiative for turn number 1, and we will pick this up at, I'll show you at the start of turn 2 where we are, start of turn 3, turn 4, and then turn 5 I'll do a full turn. And then seeing how we are time-wise, I may show you the, I'll play out the rest and show you 6, 7, 8, and 9 states as we go through. So I shall be back momentarily with an update on where we are at the end of turn 1, start of turn 2. And we're back for a quick check-in here. So not a whole lot happened that turn. We did have the sudden downpour. The sudden downpour basically reduced any chance of anybody seeing each other. There's also a lot of buildings and jungle making line of sight fairly blocked in a lot of cases. So we had the VC advance a little bit, and the Americans also advanced a little bit. Area here in the middle and over here as well. These buildings basically from row Q over, so basically here over to the river, you get victory points for controlling them. So currently, like this big one here is available. It's not controlled by either side. The VC control these on this end. The Americans control these on this end. So we're just kind of trying to, both sides are kind of trying to come into the middle, and this is the area that's gonna have some fighting. We did not get any activity, or hits rather, from the fire across the river from the invisible Arvins that are on this side of the river firing across at these units that are close to the river. So this is the situation, end of turn 1, start of turn 2, and I'm going to play turn 2 now, and then I'll do a quick update again on the situation as we move to turn number 3. Okay, here's the situation at the end of turn number 2. Whoops, I left a moved marker on here. Start of turn number 3. As you can see, the VC actually moved up and they've gone into this giant building here in the middle. We have a couple rifle squads here crossing through the cemetery. Meanwhile, the Americans have established kind of a line here. We have a couple units in this building, 4 units in this building. We have Dixon and a rifle squad that are trying to get to this building. I'm going to use this guy to take that building. I'm also going to use markers to mark which buildings are controlled by which side. I will use, I'll probably use the veteran / fire markers from the US Marine Corps ANZAC add-on, and just use like maybe the fire side for the VC and the veteran side for the Americans. So that would be this here. So this is the veteran side, and this is the flame side. So the flame side I would put here, say, to indicate that this building is controlled by the VC. And then I would take a veteran one and put it in these buildings here, because this one, these two are all American controlled, as well as the ones that actually have American units within them. So that's what I'm going to do to kind of, so when you see here in a moment our situation at the start of turn 4, you'll see what controls what. And then we're gonna, once I get to turn 5, I'm gonna play out the turn so you can see how helicopters work in the game. So again, back in a moment for the situation at the start of turn number 4. Okay, we're back. This is the situation at the end of the turn. I didn't remove the markers. I just kind of wanted to give you an actual better snapshot of what the situation looks like at the end of the turn as opposed to the start of the new turn. As you can see, I used the flame markers, as I said, to mark buildings that were taken by the Vietnamese, and I used the veteran markers to mark buildings that were taken by the Americans. And I had a few units of Americans that had not moved before the turn ended. So I used the reserve phase to actually move them out. They actually left buildings to attempt to get closer to the Vietnamese. This rifle unit in particular, I'm going to try to take out their hero, which would actually complete the Americans' bonus victory condition. And I moved this unit up from here to here, and then I bumped these guys out of the building. So it's kind of important for the Americans to draw or to gain initiative the next turn, because these guys are now exposed. Although our sniper or RPG unit rather, here is currently shaken, as is our sniper. So that affords a little bit, but we do have other units right here that can probably fire down, because we only have blocking terrain on one side, and we should have a line of sight down the lane here to this unit. So the goal for the Americans will be to gain initiative to start the next turn. Next turn will be turn 4, and then once I wrap that up, I'll do another update, and then we'll go right from that update into turn 5, and I will show you the helicopters will be arriving with our reinforcements for the Americans, and I'll show you how helicopters work and play out turn 5. So you can see a full turn here on the city when some action's going on, because now the forces have closed to within striking distance of each other. There was some fire going on in that turn. Obviously, as you see, we have some shaken units here. There was some good back and forth. The Americans luckily had some cards that allowed them to shrug off some hits. Otherwise, they would also have a couple of shaken units. So both sides are now mixing it up pretty good, and we're going to have some more exciting action coming up here in just a moment. Okay, so here's our situation at the end of turn 4, start of turn 5. As you can see, I actually replaced the markers with coins, as was suggested by Mark in the rule book. I'm using pennies for the Vietnamese and dimes for the Americans, because I didn't actually have enough of the other markers to cover all the particular building hexes. This way we know within buildings that are contested, such as this one, which it's possible that units might move out of a contested building, and you might have 2 hexes that may be Vietnamese and 1 that might be American, or vice versa, and so on. So using the coins made sense. As you can see, we actually have some situations going on here, and we also had 2 American rifle squads were eliminated that turn, as well as a Vietnamese rifle squad, an RPD, and an RPG. So right now the tally is 3 Vietnamese units eliminated and 2 Americans. Actually, as far as victory points goes, that's actually a wash. It's a tie, because the Vietnamese get 3 for each American unit, and they've destroyed 2, which is 6, and the Americans get 2 for each Vietnamese unit. They've destroyed 3, which is also 6. So we will be moving on to turn 5 here momentarily, and I'm going to actually play turn 5 out for you on camera so you can see the way helicopter combat, or just helicopters in general, work. The helicopters in this scenario are transport Hueys. They're not combat Hueys. Sorry about the camera shake there, I bumped it. So transport Hueys, they do have firepower. They can fire. They're door guns, I would assume, is what this is modeling. And they're not attack slicks. They're just they're transport copters. So they will each carry 1 rifle squad into combat, and I will kind of try and determine the best place to put them, which is probably kind of behind the Vietnamese, I think, is probably the strategy I will try to employ. But we'll see. That's coming up momentarily. Everything here is laid out correctly. You can see that the Vietnamese have several units that are shaken. The Americans do not have any shaken units at the moment. So I think things look pretty good in general for the Americans. These guys here are in a somewhat precarious position, although these units here are shaken, and this one's a single unit, a sniper. But if they can rally these guys, then we're going to have some assault combat in here, I'm assuming. Or these guys can assault there as well. Depends on who gets initiative, as always. So in a second, we're going to actually start turn number 5. First step is to determine initiative, as it is always. So we are going to play this 10 here. Come on. Well, you can tell it's a 10, I'm pretty sure. 10 for the US, and for the Vietnamese, they're going to play a 7. They're going to end up keeping this because it's not higher than the 10. So this will get discarded, and the US gets to go first. All right, so let's see. We are going to do an assault right away. And I will use, I'm going to use the fast move for the assault right here. Fast move. Okay, fast move for the assault. And we are going to assault with this unit right here. This stack right here is going to assault here. So we've got two shaken units. Now when units are shaken, that prevents them from doing simultaneous resolution of the assault. Sorry, couldn't figure out the word to say there. So we get 4 for the Americans. 1, 2, 3, 4. Viet Cong only get 1, and they may not even get to use it. So I'm going to resolve the Americans first, of course, because the other 2 units are shaken. So as always in an assault, the red or green is a hit. So first one, green hit. Second one, green hit. So that's going to actually eliminate one of the units. Third one, green hit. So I don't need to resolve the fourth one, and I don't need to resolve the Viet Cong's card either. These 3 cards will kill both units. So just like that, they've lost 2 rifle squads. So they now have lost 5 squads, 5 units rather. And US moves in here and gets marked ops complete. Okay, so now we go to the Viet Cong turn. So they have 4 cards. So I'm going to actually use the power on this card. So as you can see, this card has power on it. And this unit down here, this unit, the RPG, has a power that adds 2 to their firepower. So that would be 3 plus 1 is 4. They're adjacent 5. That unit moved, that would be 6. They are in a building that takes 2 away, so they end up with 4. So the final HEF for this attack is 4, so we draw 4 cards. Only green hits are hits, so we get a hit, we get a miss, we get an end turn, which is also a hit, and we get a third hit. So 3 hits. So that will reduce one of my squads here. So we'll reduce the rifle squad, and both units will take shaken. I'm just going to use 1 shaken because the whole stack is shaken. And they're also ops complete. These guys, because they fired, we get a fired marker. And we go back to the Americans, and they draw 2 cards. And we did have an end turn, so I need to put that out where I can see it. So we'll put that here. So we have 1 end turn in here. Oh, we drew a second end turn. So 4 end turns will actually end the turn. I need to draw another card. So I got 2 cards that have power. I'm going to play the power card, the fire card with power. This card right here has power. I'm going to play that here to fire up my 40mm power here on my rifle squad. So that 2 becomes a 3, plus the 2 for the M60 makes it a 5. We're shooting at our sniper over here. The distance is 2. Rifle units at 2, as well as the M60 at 2, get a +1. So we have 3 plus 2 is 5, and each get an additional 1. So that's 7 minus 2 for the building makes it a 5 again. So we draw 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. First one's a hit. Second one is a miss. Third one is a hit and an end turn. That's a miss and a hit. So we got 3 hits. 3 hits on 1 unit is enough to kill that unit. So we've got, because you shake, then you reduce, and then you remove. So that kills that unit, and we play our we mark fired. We go back to the Viet Cong. They have 3 cards. They draw another one. Wow, this is bad. So we have 2 punji stakes. I'm going to discard this as their turn because this is basically useless for them. Because they could play it in a jungle hex if the US goes into a jungle hex, but they're unlikely to do so. All right, so the US it's the US turn. I'm going to draw a card, and I'm going to pull in a helicopter now. So according to the rules, you can play any card as a move or fire card for a helicopter. So I will use this critical hit card because it's not really all that useful for other things in this specific thing, because it's more for vehicles. So I'm going to play this as a move card for my first helicopter. So here we have a helicopter unit. So this is a transport Huey, as you can see. It's got a circled F, which means it can carry it, and when it's flying, it's got unlimited range. So it can move anywhere on the board. As you can see, the only factor it has is the fire factor here, and it also has the suppress ability. So any hex it fires at impacts the entire hex, every unit in the hex, not just one unit, as you would get with a regular unit like this rifle unit. When they fire at a hex, they have to choose a target. So we will fly this Yui in, and they come in from the east map edge, which is this map edge here. So this map edge here, they're going to come in this way, okay? So the helicopter is moving. He's going to come in here. He's going to fly along here. I don't need to count because they have unlimited range. And he's going to ultimately end right here. Now, without a marker, because they have markers for the helicopters. This is a helicopter marker to denote what it is, what stance it's in. As you can see, it has a hover side and a landed side. If it's not marked with either of these, then it's just flying. So this is flying now. I mark it moved. So I'm going to mark it moved, and then next turn, next time I activate it, I can land it and unload it. All right, so that ends the US move. We go back to the VC. This should technically be US held. So I'm going to play this move, and we have a 3 and a 2 here, and they're going to move into the building. We'll put a moved on them. Go back to the US. We draw a card. All right, I'm going to play this panic card to activate that helicopter and land it. So we are going to land this helicopter now, and I'm going to unload my rifle squad, which uses half of its movement points. So this is now a landed helicopter. So we take this and we put it on its landed side. Put that on there, like so. Now, again, because it's unloaded, I'm going to actually put the rifle unit underneath the helicopter. So the helicopter is now landed, and we go back to the VC. They have a rally, so I'm going to use this to rally my shaken RPG right here. Back to the US, we draw a card. We get a move and fire. I think I'm going to play this second wind card and remove the fired marker from this hex right here. Oh, from one unit. We'll use it on the rifle squad. We draw a card for the VC. Okay. They have another rally card. We'll play that. We'll rally this unit, Fawn. Okay, back to the US, draw a card. They have a rally. They don't have anybody who's shaken though. I think what I'm gonna do is use my scout. Use my scout card here, and I'm gonna use it to bring in another helicopter. So same as we did before, we're gonna fly this guy in. We'll fly him this way. I guess he's gonna pass over this unit here so they can take an opportunity fire shot at him with a firepower of 2. It's moving, which gives them another 1, which would be 3. It's adjacent, which is 4. But the helicopter is a difficult target to hit, so it gets a -1. And in flying mode, they also get a cover factor of 1, so it actually becomes a 2. So they're going to shoot, but they're going to shoot, they get 2 cards here. So green hit, so they hit it, and they actually hit it twice. So they hit it twice, so that is going to shake the helicopter and actually reduce it as well. But we're going to try and we'll go over the jungle here, here, here. We're going to drop them right here. We're going to land them right here. So that's where we're going to stop. Okay, so I guess the passenger is okay, but the helicopter itself obviously has taken some damage and is now, it's still in flying mode again until my next activation of it. So we draw a card for the Viet Cong. We're going to play reinforcements and draw another card. Okay, so we got a fire card now. So they're going to fire, I think it barely sneaks past the silhouette here, but the helicopter's up in the air too, so they're going to fire at it, and they're going to use, well, they don't actually have, so the range is 1, 2, 3, 4. So at 4, the rifle squad is a 0, and the RPD is also a 0, so they don't get any benefit. So it's 3. Again, it's flying, so it gets a -1, and it's also a difficult target, so that's another. So they're only going to have 1 card with which to hit it, but if they hit it, they'll destroy it, and they miss it. They missed it. So they get fired. This is now a fired unit. And we go back to the US. Okay. So they're going to play this, I guess, this bullet storm card, or it's got a move on it as well. So we're going to do that, and we're going to just use that to activate our helicopter again, land it, and unload our rifle squad. Rifle squad gets moved. The helicopter's on top, and it is now landed. So we'll grab another. The helicopter is landed. So both of these helicopters are landed now. We go back to the VC. We have a reload and fire. Let's play that. So we're gonna take this off, and we're gonna do reload and fire. Okay. So we got reload and fire. We'll just use it for the RPD. So the rifle squad will remain fired. The RPD is 2, and it's going to shoot at this hex. And now that the helicopter's landed, it's not flying, so its cover factor is gone. But it's still difficult to hit, so it gets a -1. So that's 1 there. But the unit is there as well, and they have the suppression, so they can apply it equally. So they can either destroy the helicopter, which would be honestly kind of useless in this instance, because the helicopter has accomplished what it came to do, and it's going to get out of here. But we're going to draw 1 card and flip it, and it's a miss. It's a yellow hit, which is a miss. So they get the fired back again, and we draw a card for the US. I'm going to use the tactics, which lets you choose a hex, fire with the units in that hex, and then choose another unit within 2 hexes and move those units. So this unit here is going to fire at this. Yeah, it can, because it's going to get a +1 for the range, and it'll lose 2 because of the building. So it's a 1. So we'll draw 1 card. It's a hit. Okay, so that will reduce the rifle squad now. So both actually no, it shakes them. So we'll shake the rifle squad. They're still ops complete. This guy's now fired. And now these guys fired but didn't move, so I'm going to use this to move them. So they can move 2 hexes. So we're going to go 1, 2, or maybe we'll just go 1. We're just going to go right here. And I'm going to mark them ops complete. The idea being we assault this hex in turn 6, if possible. All right, let me put a dime here, just to note that we have that building, although we don't get any points for that, but we do want to make sure that it doesn't look like the VC control it. All right, so VC turn, they have a move and fire. I think I'm going to use that. So we will move, yeah, we're going to move Fawn and this RPG. We'll move here. And then we'll have a shot at this. So we have, well, maybe we won't, because we only have 2. So I guess I'm just going to use the move to move them. So we're moved up. We'll mark a move on there, and we can fire on our next turn. So back to the US. Draw another card. Okay, I really need to try and, so I'm going to do, I think I'll do a move and fire this time. So I'm going to do move and fire. And I'm going to use it with my last helicopter here. So my 3rd helicopter. And he's going to fly in along the north border again. And he's going to ultimately end up here. So he's here. He has not landed. I'm going to fire with him now as well. So he's got 4. He's firing into some buildings. So we're adjacent. So we get a +1, that's 5, -2 for the, actually -1 for the building, because it's not a stone building. Makes it a 4. So we're going to draw 4 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see if we can't damage these guys. So we get nothing. We got 1 hit. We got nothing. We got 2 hits. So 2 hits. So we shake both, actually, I guess, oh, they do have suppression. So both units get shaken. So both units are shaken. Both units have fired. And we moved. So that will end the US. We go back to the VC. So we are going to use this. We're going to play the power on this card to activate the high explosive power for the RPG, which adds 2, so that gives it a 3 plus Fawn's 1 is a 4. So they get to draw 4 cards. Okay, so we get a range of 1, 2, 3. The RPG at range 3 is a -1, so that gives 1 back. It's a 3. They also lose 2, so it's going to be a 1. So they get 1 shot here at this rifle unit, and they miss. Okay, so now they're ops complete. And we go back to the Americans, and we draw light wounds, which I am going to actually use here to unload this helicopter. So we're going to land and unload. So our rifle squad will be marked as moved and put under the Huey, and the Huey itself, get there, will be marked as landed. So back to the Viet Cong. We're getting close to the end of the turn here, and we just drew the last end turn card. So that's going to end the turn. So we'll keep the Let's Get 'em card for the VC, and we'll keep we'll keep the fire with power card for the US. Okay, so there's our 4 end turn cards. So here's the situation at the end of turn 5. And the helicopters, by rule, they leave at the end of turn 5. So these helicopters will be gone. The only thing I didn't really show, actually I did show combat with the helicopter. If you have an attack Huey, it works a little bit differently. The Marines actually have Cobra gunships as well that you could use with the Marine Corps. Obviously I didn't show that and I won't, but the Cobra actually has 6 firepower, so it's pretty badass, and you know, you can use that as you see fit. So this is the situation at the end of turn 5. I'm going to pause and, you know, do my setup and everything and get ready for turn 6. All right, here's our situation at the end of turn number 6. I have not done any of the reserve movement yet, or reserve phase rather, and there probably won't be a whole lot that happens in that phase anyway. So we had a couple failed assaults by the US in this turn. They ended up losing another rifle squad in the business of doing that. They did move a unit into this building over here to kind of start to reclaim some of this area back here. The VC is getting thin on the ground. They have a stack here and a stack here, 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 and here. So they don't have a whole lot going on. The Americans are here, obviously here, here, there, and over here. So we've had some attrition here. The US has now lost 3. The VC, I think, has lost 7, maybe, including a hero. So that means the US has achieved its special victory condition, its bonus victory condition. They did kill the sniper, Ngo, I think is how you say that name. And so this is the situation now as we end turn 6 and go into turn 7. So we've reached the end of turn 7 now. Again, actually I haven't done the reserve move yet, and I am going to actually use that to move black stack here, which has a total movement of 2. So we'll just do 1, 2, move them here. Need to go this way. This one actually is, this is an NVA held or VC held building. As you can see, there isn't a whole lot left for the VC. They took a couple more big losses that turn, and they are in really, really bad shape right now. They have a stack here, and one here, and one here, and that's it. This whole central area has been cleared out by the Americans. The Americans can now start to push this way and recapture these last few VC held buildings, and that's going to basically give them a victory. They've eliminated, let's see, they've eliminated 10 VC units. That's 20 victory points worth, while the VC have eliminated 3 American units, which is 9 victory points worth. The Americans also, they only get benefit of things this side of row Q, which is this one. And some of these they don't actually get credit for. They get P9, they get credit for P9 and everything in O and over that they control. They'll get 3 additional victory points, and the VC would get 3 points for any buildings they control that are east of the river. So that's a handful right now, but it's not going to be enough for them to actually win. So we are going into turn 8, and I will do another update at the end of turn 8, and then I'll do an update when the game ends after 9, unless I manage to eliminate the remaining VC units before then, which I don't think I will, but certainly going to try for the Americans. They're going to try to stay aggressive and see if they can knock, see if we can get an overwhelming victory here for the Americans. So here's the situation after turn number 8. So things are looking really, really shaky for the VC at this point. I don't think there's any way they can actually win this scenario. American firepower has just proven to be too great. So up here we have a Hero, Dixon, and 2 rifle squads. They're closing in over here. I've also got a group of 3 here that are looking to take care of this group there. And then on this end down here we have 2 here, one of which is a sniper, and then we have a group of VC right here in this area. And assuming that I can rally for the Americans, rally this unit here, we have several vectors of attack to clear out this grouping here. I don't know that we'll clear the board, or that the Americans rather will clear the board of the VC by the end of the game, but that's probably a possibility based on the fact that I have the Americans rather have a great deal of flexibility here. I'm going to put this dime here because that's an American held area, and pretty much everything from Q over doesn't really count for the Americans in terms of capturing things, but the VC are not going to be able to get anything over here. So right now they're down to basically like 2, 3, 4, 5. They've got 5 of the victory point hexes, and they've killed 3 American units, so that total is going to be really small compared to what the Americans are going to have racked up by the end of turn 9, which is about to begin. So I will be back to do a final wrap up momentarily on the final disposition of the Battle of Quang Tri here in 65 squad level combat in the jungles of Vietnam. And the game is done. So final setting here. Essentially, the VC really took a beating in this scenario. The Americans ended up nearly conquering the entire board. They did an assault over here and took out the 2 rifle squads that were there. They actually got bumped out here, but then with this guy, and then this one assaulted and took it back and pushed them back there. So they actually ended up with only 2 building hexes owned for 6 points. They eliminated rigs. So in taking this one, so they gained another point. They also met their bonus conditions, which the US did as well. So each gets 4 for the special objective. So the VC got, they've got 2 here, which makes 6. So they get 6 for hexes. They get 12 from killing US units, which makes 18, and they get 4 additional for meeting their victory condition, special victory condition. So their total is 22. The Americans, on the other hand, get a lot. They met their victory special condition, so they get 4 for that. As far as units eliminated, they have 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10, 12, 14. 14 times 3 is 42. So 42, 46, and then for everything in row O, so 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30, 33, 36, 39, 42, 45, 48, 51, 54. So yeah, they racked up a lot of points. A lot of points. So 54 plus 4 is 58, plus the 42. So this was an interesting scenario. I enjoyed playing it. I do think that you would have to be extremely lucky in the card draws as the VC to kind of have a really good chance. And unfortunately for them, in my playthrough here, they really didn't have good luck in drawing cards. They needed a lot of rally cards and bloodlust cards, and they just weren't getting them. Whereas the US was able to get a lot of cards that actually supported attacks, blunted some of the VC attacks, and they got rallies and bloodlusts when they needed them, which kept most of their units active and healthy. And so that ended up, you know, alongside the fact that they just have better firepower. They had the 3 rifle squads that came in as reinforcements via the helicopters. The scales were definitely, I feel like, tilted in the US's favor, maybe not by a great deal, but when you coupled that with the bad luck that the VC had in drawing cards, that pretty much spelled a massive US victory in this particular scenario. I like this. It's a big map, and it was a lot of fun, you know, kind of trying to assault buildings and everything. I mean, if you like, you know, urban combat, you know, Stalingrad type stuff, this is probably the closest thing you're going to get in the Vietnam War. And just like everything else that was done with this game, I feel like Flying Pigs and Mark Walker did a great job with this. Obviously, the components are really nice, but the scenario design is very well done. There's a lot of stories, especially in the solo mod. Mark is obviously a writer as well as a designer, and he added some nice little tidbits inside the solitaire module. And some of this I'm going to talk about in my review, so I probably shouldn't ramble on about that. But I did want to say that I do think that the add-ons for this game are well worth it. Both the U.S. Marine Corps ANZAC add-on and this one, and obviously the solitaire module as well, are all great additions to a really, really good card-driven tactical game. This is just a really good game, and I really enjoyed it. So I will do one more video, just doing kind of a review of everything, looking at everything in hopefully a more compact, shorter kind of format, just talking about the different pieces of the game and how everything works and fits together and everything. So for now, I am going to sign off. My name is Joe. This is Hexed Encountered. As always, thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, happy gaming.